Vikings that we love almost everything, except we don't know what in the world we have with J.J. McCarthy. So can you, I mean, we like the receivers, the O-line, the coach, the GM, everything. J.J. McCarthy, what are you hearing and seeing?
So I would say, like, mentally and physically, last year was really difficult on him. And he went through a lot and dealing with a knee injury. And they did things creatively over the course of the year to try to involve him. He started traveling with the team at the end of October. You remember their game with the Rams there, that the Rams won in pretty dramatic fashion in Los Angeles. So they tried to, again, make up for everything they were losing and make up for some of the struggles that he went through by engaging with him at the end of last year. And then the year ended, and I think there was some question, his weight had dropped, and, again, he had been through a lot, and where is he, and really from that point forward, JJ has been around, he's been engaged, and he's been such a huge part of everything that they do. And look, like, I think the reality is all you got to do is look back at it, right? Like, they were looking for an insurance policy on this, and they were going to bring back Sam Darnold for a year, but Darnold got more of a commitment from the Seahawks, and they were going to look at bringing back Daniel Jones at $15 million, which is a huge expenditure for a backup, and let Daniel Jones compete. But DJ obviously saw the better opportunity to win a job there in Indianapolis. So I'm not telling you here that, the whole offseason, it's been like gung-ho, J.J. McCarthy, let's go. There was the Aaron Rodgers thing too. But gradually, they've seen those signs, and they've seen who he is as an athlete, and they've seen him take a little bit more of a step as a leader. And so I think they're cautiously optimistic about where they are with JJ. Like you said, this is a team that is good in so many areas. The defense is coming back and adds on the interior, Jonathan Allen and Javon Hargrave. On offense, really the only weakness of that team was the interior of the offensive line. Christian Darrisaw, of course, is coming back at left tackle, so that'll answer the tackle question. But the interior of that offensive line brings in, 3 new starters. And so I think where they are on offense, defense, it's a program that should be firing on all cylinders. And, with what we've seen Kevin O'Connell do with Kirk Cousins and then Sam Darnold over the last 3 years, I think there's a lot of reason for hope that J.J. McCarthy is going to be a really good player in his first year as a starter.
Yeah. I think one of the key things that I really want to talk about here, one of the things I want to bring up here is because a lot of Minnesota Vikings fans really pushed back on the idea that there was any type of doubt around J.J. McCarthy, and there definitely is, because, Albert Breer is literally at Minnesota's camp right now, and he's been reporting this, and, like, Albert Breer's role in the, NFL sports talk ecosystem is to report on this type of stuff, and he cannot exist by just making stuff up, and he cannot exist with really loose, wrong source. So the fact that he's saying that the Vikings really did want Sam Darnold back, and that when Sam Darnold got a better offer, then they were really going to pay Daniel Jones like $50 million, which again is a lot of money for a backup quarterback, and have him compete. Like, you can take that to the bank. That is real. He cannot say those things and then just float around at camp in Minnesota and have no repercussions. It's just not the way it works. It's just not the way this works. It's a reputation business. So that does mean something, but I want to add context to that, because it's okay to be a fan and accept that. Like, there was a ton of pushback on that when we kind of discussed this throughout the offseason. But to me, that makes sense that the Minnesota Vikings will do that, because they saw how great this team was. They were competing for the number 1 seed. And you have to understand that more often than not, no matter how great or excited you are about your young quarterback, you're most likely, more often than not, going to have more success with an actual established veteran, someone who's been through it. And especially now, someone coming off of an injury, losing weight, like they needed him to fully recover, get back in shape. There's just extra question marks around J.J. McCarthy that it just is like, you have to do your due diligence. You have to set up the safety nets, and that is how a high functioning team works. Look at the Miami Dolphins, who are not a high-functioning team. They have Tua Tagovailoa, and they're like, we don't really care about having high-quality backups, and it directly led them to not make the playoffs. So, like, those things matter. Those things absolutely matter. So to me, that's like an indication, not so much about an indication of like of their doubt on a JJ McCarthy, but it actually just shows that they are a well-run franchise, making sure that they have all, they turned all the stones over, they checked all their boxes, all the X's, all dotted all the I's, crossed the T's, whatever weird analogies you want to use, like they did it. And that to me signals high functioning more than doubt of JJ McCarthy. I think that's totally fair. If JJ McCarthy was 100% healthy and they had all season long with him where he was at practices and all that type of stuff last season, and then they were doing this, right? It was essentially the same actions. Then I would say, okay, that is then legitimate doubt. That is legitimate concern. They clearly have not seen enough out of JJ. Then I think some of those more like leaning negative takes on JJ would 100% make sense. Would 100% make sense. But that's obviously not the case. And when you have a team that has been as great as the Minnesota Vikings, you're just like, I owe it. And I think even Kevin O'Connell pretty much said this. It's like, I owe it to the team to make sure that I put this team in the best position to win, no matter who that is at quarterback, whether it's Daniel Jones, Sam Darnold, or anyone else under the sun, or of course, obviously JJ McCarthy. And that is what you owe. You owe it to the team first and foremost. I always say this. Justin Jefferson is not in JJ McCarthy's story. He's in his own story, right? Addison, all these guys, they're in their own stories. They're not there to be like, I hope JJ is going to really take off. It's like, whether it's JJ, whether it's Sam, whether it's Mahomes, John, Bill, it doesn't matter. That everybody just wants the ball. Everybody just wants to win. But I do think that there's plenty of optimism to go around. But I do think, though, we should accept what Albert Breer is also saying, where he's like, I believe that the Minnesota Vikings are, cautiously optimistic. They're optimistic, but they're just still kind of like, all right, we still have to let this unfold. And you still have to recognize that this is a, for all intents and purposes, a rookie quarterback who's coming off of a year of injury, of not playing football, that this is not going to be a situation where you can just expect someone to just hit the ground running and be great from the jump. And as much as Kevin O'Connell has had a ton of experience with Sam Darnold and with Kirk Cousins, those are experienced veteran quarterbacks. Say what you will about Kirk Cousins or Sam Darnold, they've been in the NFL for years leading up to for them to finally be with Kevin O'Connell. That is not the situation with JJ McCarthy. So it is fundamentally different. Undeniably fundamentally different. Just the sheer fact that Kevin O'Connell had plenty of film to work off of when looking at Sam Darnold and Kirk Cousins. Like NFL film does not have that, right? These guys were understood the speed, the defenses. They understood the NFL, whether they were succeeding or failing. They at least understood the NFL experience. That's not what JJ McCarthy has. So, I'm on the record very much defending JJ McCarthy and saying that I think he absolutely can be great and can have a lot of success with this Vikings team and can be a legitimate contender with JJ even in year one. But I'm also very firmly planting my flag to say, like, there's absolutely going to be very vivid, concrete moments when you're just like, This didn't look good. This wasn't great. That wasn't a good game. This was a little messier. And it could be in the very beginning. It could be in the middle. I mean, like, it just, we again, just all we do is have to just go back to last season. Look at Jaden Daniels. Look at Bo Nix. Look at Caleb Williams. But even just look at the two quarterbacks that actually really, got their season together, Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix. They 1,000% did not hit the ground running. Like, when in those first few games, you could clearly see, yep, that's a young quarterback. Yep, that's clearly a quarterback that has not been in the NFL for years. It's just as clear as day. You don't need to know anything about football. You can just watch it and see this looks different than someone who's clearly been in the NFL for just 5 years, 3 years, 4 years. It's just fundamentally different. We're going to see that with JJ McCarthy. It would actually be genuinely shocking to not see that. And so my whole kind of issue is that you're going to almost get a similar effect that we got with Bo Nix. And I don't want to use Caleb Williams because Caleb Williams, there was like too much energy on it. But like, I think Bo Nix, because again, he ended up leading that team to the playoffs and all that. But it was very much like, I was talking to a lot of Broncos fans and they were very much just like, I was sold on the Broncos being good this year. I remember reading the comment. He's like, I feel wronged. I feel lied to. I was sold that the Denver Broncos and Bo Nix were going to have a lot of success. And I just remember being like, first off, that hit me hard because I was just like, don't feel lied to. Don't feel misled. He wasn't talking about me personally. He was just talking about like, the media conversations. But it was just like, just you got to give it a second. You got to give it a second. And based on some of the conversations that have been around JJ McCarthy right now, it does feel if there's any sense of early struggles or just anything shy of perfection, really just even a couple losses, there's going to be extra focus. Even if JJ McCarthy plays pretty decent in the first couple of games, but they go 1-1, but he's like, I don't know, I'm trying to make up a box score here, 15 for 25, for 26, 210 yards, 1 touchdown, right? And like, that's it. And a passer rating of like, whatever the passer rating ends up being. It's just like, people will be like, is this team not good enough? Should they have not moved on from Sam Darnold? Whatever. And I feel as though you're going to see that, honestly. Those conversations are really going to be like, the media on the sidelines is just going to be waiting to throw that out there. So be prepared for that. Be prepared, honestly, because I just think like that's a very, very realistic, thing. And that is why it has always been, it's actually been a difficult situation for Kevin O'Connell and this team to really understand. We have an amazing roster, but we also have a really young quarterback. And we understand that young quarterbacks take a minute or two to develop. But we have an amazing roster, and we had a tremendous amount of success with the veteran quarterback. What's the play here? What's the play? I can't sell my team, sell it to my team that, hey, we might have to take a step backwards because we have a young quarterback. We're going to go through some growing pains. Like I said, man, players are just, they got their own careers, their own lives, their own stories to write. Like it's a tough selling point to the team. And so it's just like, but also at the same time, you could be like, and this is what was happening with the Kansas City Chiefs, although significantly more straightforward. It was just like, all right, we see Patrick Mahomes over this whole season where he has not been playing, but in practice and all that, we know the plan was always to transition to Mahomes, and we know to our core that Alex Smith is not good enough. Even though we're having success with him, we know to the core of our being, he is not good enough to elevate this team to the next level. That hasn't been the direct experience of the Minnesota Vikings because of the age of the quarterbacks that they're getting, the injuries, the timelines that they've had of these other quarterbacks. It's been a very specific, more short-term, narrow window with all of that. So it's just a little bit less straightforward, honestly. But I still think what the Vikings are doing is appropriate, makes sense. And yeah, I mean, this is where you just trust Kevin O'Connell that he's making the right decision. And if anything ever goes wrong, I feel so much better knowing that it was the offensive head coach's decision, right? If something goes wrong on the offense with the quarterback decision, I feel it's easier for me to sleep at night knowing that if this ended up being the wrong decision or the right decision, obviously, it's like I can go to sleep at night knowing Kevin O'Connell. It stopped with Kevin O'Connell. In KOC, we trust. Like, that's what it is, right or wrong. I'm trusting his expertise. I'm trusting his evaluation. That's what it is. Just like how I want to put the ball in my playmakers' hands and put them in a position to succeed. That's what you want from your head coach as well, right? And you don't want the owner to be making the decision. You don't want to hear like, well, the owner was very much like, he said we drafted so-and-so and he's got to play, right? You don't want it to be a Cleveland Browns type situation or Jerry Jones type situation. So, I think positive things are on the horizon. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Minnesota Vikings? What do you think the expectations are for McCarthy's first year starting? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.